Asher and Penland on W4CY Radio.
Wake up, America! It's time for the adventures of Hype Man on W4CY.com, West Palm Beach's #1 internet radio station. Here's your host, the Hype Man.
This is the Pipe Man here on the Adventures Pipe Man W4CY Radio, and I'm here with our next guest who has some killer new music, a lot of killer new stuff going on that we're going to talk about. So let's welcome to the show Adam from Das Moöse. How are you?
What's up, everybody?
So I want to start right off the bat. You got a new album coming out, the debut album, Moösehenge, and I have that album right behind me.
Yes. The mighty
there
Moösehenge.
It is. Mm-hmm. So tell us, I'm totally into album covers, okay? Because I come from that time, you know, yes. and that's how you picked what albums you bought. Like, you know, you have on this album, you have Alex playing with you from Testament. Yep. You know, the only way I know about Testament is getting and seeing one of their albums way back in the early 80s and going, wow, that looks cool. I'm going to take a Greyhound bus from LA up to the Frisco area, to the Bay Area to go check out a show.
That's right. You remember it well. Well, that I also came from that era when albums were the thing. And of course, what's great about you have 12 inches by 12 inches of artwork, and you could like open up and look at and learn who was involved with making it. And so I got for the album cover, before we even talk about like what's in it, one of the great Bay Area artists who really was part of the Bay Area thrash scene, and his name is Mark DeVito. So he's one of those classic artists, and he's going to. I got him to do the cover and the back cover, and it looks like a classic thing. It looks like and specifically about this cover, I had the idea. I mean, Moösehenge was just like a great title. I said, what sounds heavy? Moösehenge, it's right. Ridiculous. I knew to get the Stonehenge things, put the antlers on it. But where I got that glow around it was, and you'll appreciate this, you remember the Kiss solo albums, right? And their faces with the glow. And that one, the specific one, I said, I want the color of Ace Frehley, because I thought that was the coolest looking one, And I just was like that blue that he had, and I was like, that's the color I want. And of course, Mark DeVito understood it quite well, and that's where that came from. So we were kind of like, yeah, that's the look, and it just tells you kind of, that we're we're kind of heavier music, but that we also got a sense of humor about ourselves as well. So that's good.
Which also describes Ace Frehley anyway, because great guitarist, but also funny guy,
That's right. That's right. One of my absolute favorites. I mean, that, a defining moment for me was definitely when I got my hands on that Kiss Alive album. I mean, I could burn a hole through it by looking at it, just looking at that picture, you know what I mean? And that back cover just kills me,
So, check this out. Speaking of those, I think everybody has a Kiss story, and like for me, I grew up in Jersey before I moved to LA in 1980, but my first album I ever owned personally, not one that I stole from my older brothers, but mine, I won at the Boardwalk in Seaside Heights at one of those Carney games. And I look up and they were all albums, and I just saw this album up there with these four dudes that I thought looked the coolest ever. And I was a kid, and it was the original Kiss album when it first came out.
Wow.
Right.
Wow, that goes right to the source, man. That's the beginning. Yeah.
I think that prepared me for everything else after that, to be honest,
Absolutely. If you can handle that, you're there, It's like I was fortunate. I came in about that album Alive, and then Rock and Roll Over, and I convinced my father, who just show how far apart it is, listen to opera, to take me to their concert in 1976. And that was the first concert he took me to. It was also the last concert he took me to. So he was not interested in what was going on there. Although, in hindsight, I think about it, it's not that far from opera in a certain kind of sense, the theatricality of it. But the volume and the pyrotechnics, I think, just got him. And by the way, back in those days, you could choke on the marijuana smoke in the room. I mean, it was like, it was like a fog. And but whatever. I saw them and I was just like, all right, I'm rock and roll for life. I don't care about anything anymore. And so it was amazing.
It's interesting too that you brought that up, because I was just covering Aftershock this weekend, and I was just talking about that with somebody. It's like, it's so cool to me that back in our day, our parents' music was so far from ours, and nowadays our generation is bringing their kids and bringing their, like, I brought my son in his first mosh pit. I brought a couple of my grandkids into their first mosh pit, and like, I'm the cool dad and grandpa because of music, opposed to the uncool dad because of music.
Right, who doesn't like it and says it's bad, right? It's like, that's amazing. And Aftershock's a great festival. I was there in 2021. It was kind of when they got back going after COVID, and Metallica headlined over there, and so I was at that one.
Nice.
It was fun to see some bands over at that one too. It was nice to just see anything at that point. I mean, we'd all been shut down.
I think that was the year too that they had the Bay Area thrash bands all playing there pretty much.
There was a lot of it because they were local and stuff, and traveling was still hard. So it was really cool to see. But we were like in a bubble. We had to test into like a bubble and just be there. I had to shoot some interviews and things. So it was kind of still heavy duty at the time. Nobody wanted to get anybody sick, especially not the band guys, because whatever. Yeah. Then, 50 or 100 of my friends are out of work. All these crew guys.
No doubt.
So yeah.
And we didn't want to shut down again, because life without live music is no good at all, in my opinion.
I'm right with you, man. That was it. So we were happy to have it. We were happy to have it back. So that was good. But it was nice. I did enjoy being up there in the like Northern California area, checking out that festival. It was a nice one.
Nice. So let's talk about your band, because what I love about your band is it combines most everything from my childhood, especially because I'm both from like the New York, New Jersey area and from the LA area, and so it just reminds me of, if you just put together everything that I liked as a teenager, that's Das Moöse.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, thank you so much. It's, what's interesting is I kind of rounded up these guys who are, like I said, the bonding factor is we all have kids that are 14 years old. So we met, and I was just like, all right, we need you and we need you. But everybody comes to it with something, you know what I mean? And so my other guitar player, singer, Joel, is he comes to it from a jam band background. And so he kind of brings a more melodic thing, and he, his songs have these long tail ends with jam song, he just kind of solos out and everything. Drew, my drummer, Drew Haas, is a great drummer. He was professional. He did it in Austin, Texas for a bunch of years in the 90s. And my bass player, Rob Kasabian, great player, comes from the Washington, D.C., like kind of hardcore scene and punk scene. And so he's got a real good attack on the bass. And everything comes together. And so what we kind of felt was, as much as we wanted to be like really heavy on a lot of stuff, the album, as I listen to it now, has a lot of different feels on it. And the thing that it reminds me of, not that we sound like them at all, but is if you listen to those great Clash records by the Clash, they could play like a few different styles of music credibly and just be great, and just be that. And so they weren't like just a fast punk band. Maybe their first record was, but after that they developed into like this really nicely rounded band. And I always thought, well, that's kind of cool if you can do that. It makes it very interesting. Anyway, we enjoy it,
Well, what I think's cool about it is, and especially a lot in music today being like this, is back in our day, you had all the gatekeepers, so you couldn't really combine genres like that. And, you know, I went to Slayer shows on a Friday night and Dead shows on a Saturday afternoon, and then try to go to punk shows, but I was a long hair, and you'd get your ass beat if you went to a punk show. So, like, it's kind of cool just combining those worlds because. I talked about this with somebody over this weekend, like nobody just likes one genre of music. Like that makes no sense. Like if you like music, you like music. Sure, there's some things you don't like, but for the most part, I think it depends on what you're doing, what your mood is, what all those things that you can kind of change it up. So it's good to have a band that has that diversity because sometimes there's albums like you don't want to listen to the whole album because every single song is the same song. I'd rather it be more diversified so that I want to take the full experience of a full album.
I think it's a great point. I mean, certain bands have thrived, I guess, doing, for whatever reason, they're just, they just want to do. I mean, AC/DC, you want an AC/DC record, you know what I mean?
Right.
It just is what they are, and it's what you want to hear from them and to say. And they can vary it slightly, but ever so slightly. And other bands just have a little more freedom to play around and expand. And I just think, for us who are not set yet, I think we're like the kind of band. Sorry, there's just some noise in the record hall here. I think some bands that are not like set in stone yet in so many ways, we just wanted to just do what we want to do, and it was natural if we feel it, you know what I mean? If we feel like playing it, we're doing it. I think we felt like we can do it. What's interesting is you play these songs out live and they work, and that's as good a barometer for what's good as anything else. You know what I mean? You just play.
Yeah.
Just go out there and play it live. And if your audience is receptive and you can feel the crowd, you can feel when they're feeling this, then it's like it's good. You know what I mean? We're on track.
And that is a big key because for me, some of my favorite bands are because I saw them live. There's a lot of bands I saw back in the 80s that I saw live before I ever saw an album because either they didn't have an album yet or you didn't know what an album sounded like till you bought it. So it was actually cheaper to go to the show first and then buy the album.
Remember that? It was risky to risk those bucks on like an LP, and you do it sometimes, usually based on the artwork, but you kind of wanted to know something about them. And a live show was a great way to find out. It really was.
And I think the energy and the feeling you get at a live show is what makes you like a band. There's bands that I did not like before seeing their live show. And then I was like, wow, that's great. Yeah. And even certain things that I totally did not get, like certain types of genres. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not me. And then you see it live and you're like, oh, I get it now. Right.
I definitely have that conversion. I've seen live bands that I never thought about. So I never either downloaded them or got a record or whatever, and then I go see it live, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay,
exactly.
This is something. And sometimes it doesn't live up to the live experience. Sometimes the best thing a band does is live. You mentioned the Grateful Dead, and that's maybe the best example. It's something about that collective energy and what those guys were able to do with it. I was not a Dead fan when I was younger, although I was fortunate to attend the show. And now I value them. I think they're terrific. I listen to much more of it,
Well, it's funny you should say that too, because that's kind of who I am. Like the live Dead show was just an experience and them jamming the way they did. And there's some songs I like to listen to that are on the albums, but I'm not that Deadhead that can sit there and listen to them 24/7, studio especially. It's like you got to be there, experience it. And because every experience was different was the key, know. And then there's some songs that just they play live better, no matter what.
Yes. Yeah. It just that collective experience. There's no getting around it and, whatever. I mean, I just came back from Mexico City. I saw Metallica play live, and it's just like, that's one of my favorite places to see them, Mexico City, because the audience is just next level, off the hook. And
Wow.
It was just like the greatest live experience, to just be there collectively and feel what's going on there, It was just so powerful. So that's, great live shows, great live show. It's a funny thing. We were and we kind of reenact a little of this in the music video. Me and the band, we're all fans of Jane's Addiction. We just like that, we were just fans of it. So we bought tickets. We went as a group. It's one of the only things I think we went as a group and we went to what I guess turns out to be the last live show, full show of Jane's Addiction. We were at the show before the show where the fight breaks out, and that's the end of them. So it was, and they were great, by the way. I'll say the night we saw them, they were terrific. We drove home going like, oh my God, that was great. And we loved seeing them. So we kind of reenact that in the music video. We put on luchador masks, like Mexican wrestling masks, and like reenact a Perry Farrell, Dave Navarro fight, So, but we love those guys. It's not against them. We really enjoyed the show.
Well, it definitely had to be a bad night because, like, I didn't really imagine. I know there's tension, but I never imagined Perry Farrell of all people to like do that. Yeah, there's stuff we don't know. So for all the haters out there, like, you don't know what's going on in somebody's life or behind the scenes to judge them. There's always tension in bands, especially the longer you've been a band together. Like, especially people, start off as high school bands. Like, how many of us can really get along with our high school friends at this stage of life?
That's right. Right. So it's a great point. So that takes me back when I was in the studio. I filmed Metallica for many, many times, but what I looked for was like these moments where, because also in that tension is where the creative, engine often lies. And so, we saw the whole world got to look at it when they released this footage, when the Beatles put that Get Back footage out there, right? You could see it right there. And not that they were always fighting, but there was tension. And even when they're getting along, it was like, still there's a power to it. But when my personal experience was, Metallica, and there's a moment that I always remember of Lars where he was trying to get something complicated, a drum thing, and he couldn't get it. And he took the drumstick and he stabs it through the snare. And over the years, now I put that out, that came out 32 years ago. And it's like, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to musicians, particularly drummers, but not always. And they've said, yeah, that you caught it on film. I've done that, but you caught that on film. And right there is the creative tension. You're trying to get something and you're working at it so hard, and you can hear it in your head, but you can't get it down. And that comes out. And it's one of those moments that's, I think it causes you to get better, because I think you come back in and you figure out a way to conquer that. And, the world gets a song like Enter Sandman out of it, and that's what's amazing about that.
And that seems to be a story quite often too. So it's not like it's a unique story, Those things happen because, listen, siblings, what do they have? Sibling rivalry. When you're in a band, you're like siblings and you're together 24/7. How could there not be tension?
Yeah, no, it's true. It breeds it. Now, if we're getting to our record, we're not that kind of band. We're not in it that much. We got along fine. Me and the guys, we actually have a lot of fun. We're friends. We could go out for drinks just as well as do the music or play a live show. So it's been an entertaining thing. But again, the reason is because there's not the pressure on us. We're not doing it night after night and doing it at a certain high achieving level, which is amazing. I watch friends in various bands. You mentioned Alex Skolnick and Testament. I saw them the other night, and I just was like, I'm amazed. I watch what two guitar players, Alex Skolnick and Eric Peterson, do, and the way they lock it in together, and it's magnificent. It's just amazing. Now, do that night after night while traveling around the country. It's hard. It's hard,
Yeah.
and and then do it for years, and it's amazing. Those guys are just, all these guys who are doing it and gals who are doing it. It just knocks me out. So yeah, it's something to definitely strive for and to admire.
Yeah, and I think it should be fun. So I'm glad you guys are having fun with it. And just the fact that you did the whole Jane's Addiction thing just tells me you're having fun. Listen,
Yeah.
if you're not having fun in this business, it can be not fun. Like seriously not fun.
Right. So that was kind of the fun thing about getting these guys together to play, because I kind of, I just looked at it as like, I've known so many people in so many bands, and like there's usually, we were all younger then, and like the pressure was on. You had to make it, and by make it, that meant make money and get fame and be able to do this full time and all that. And it was interesting putting together this band that was just like, okay, money, we're not going to make any, so that's out the window. Fame, yeah, we're probably not going to get that either. That's out the window. Now, are you having fun playing music? And if the answer to that is yes, then you're in the right place. Now let's just play. And it's nice. And then, other things can happen from that. Of course, we were able to, we just kept playing. So we had some great shows and, made this record, and I'm talking to you, and that's really cool. We'll make a music video. Part of that's going to be with a movie. That's all great stuff that happens because I guess we're kind of just in it in the right place. We're just having fun,
Yeah. And even like, okay, so you have Alex in, the song that's in the movie and in the movie trailer, and he creates an alter ego in.
Yes.
So that's just proof of having fun, Yeah.
That's the amazing thing about him. He is, he's immensely talented, and of course, besides his heavy metal work, he has his jazz band stuff. So his talent is beyond, but he's still got a sense of humor enough that he could horse around in a video like ours. And he plays keyboards on that particular song, Traction Park Massacre, which is appropriate because Alex is also doing the score to the movie. So and I think he's going to, again, amaze all of us with his talent, but in another direction, because we put out a teaser for the movie some months ago, and Alex did the score. And if it's reminiscent of anything, I would say it sounds kind of like John Carpenter's scores that he did for his movies back in the 80s, which of course Stranger Things did a pretty incredible job of imitating and taking it to another level in what they were doing. And, me and my co-director Douglas just kind of said, we wanted to have that 80s feel. Can you do something like this? And true to form, Alex was able to do that. So, we're happy to, be working with him, and it's always great fun to have him in our music video. He starts it off like one of those horror hosts, those guys that host like a horror movie, and Alex plays an alter ego, Count von Skolator. So he kicks off the music video in that way. So it's great that we can, horse around like that too.
Absolutely. And I think it's pretty cool as far as you go, like crossing different industries that are similar, like doing your filmmaking and being involved in music at the same time. To me, like everybody likes to say to artists or whatever, oh, you're living the dream life. And some respects people are, some they're not. You don't know about the behind the scenes. But to me, the dream life is to be able to just be creative like that, whatever industry it is, and be able to go into different arenas like you do and be able to create.
Yeah, absolutely, Dean. It's just such a gift, and we, look, I've never stopped working. I was always working towards like making films, and at a certain point, making music, and that was fun, and whatever else came my way, and working with different kind of talent, working with comedians, because I found music in that also. The rhythm of the jokes is basically music, and I just felt it in everything. So it's kind of nice. This wasn't planned so much; it was just planned like, let's go to a horror movie, and it came out quite well. And then I was like, well, I would really love to have like music to this horror movie, and I'd love to have a Ramones type song, because that's what it felt like it wanted to have. That's the vibe of it. And so I just said, let's just create something, a complete homage to the Ramones, but make it have like a feel that's like and fits with our movie. So we did. Alex contributed keyboards, and then we were like, okay, let's shoot a music video, and Alex was good enough to be in it, and let's just keep going. You know what I mean? It's like let's and it just so happens all this stuff's coming together. This was not planned, but it is coming together with the release of the record and the music video, and of course this great trailer, preview that we're going to do at this panel tomorrow at New York Comic Con. So it's sort of a nice, hey, your art in many different forms coming together.
And I think that's the way it's really cool. Like, even I was watching a show recently, Lady Gaga was on, and she was talking about being Harley Quinn, and she talked about she made an album. She said it's not the soundtrack to the album, but it's something to go, a soundtrack to the movie. It's something to go with the movie. It's like, it just all goes hand in hand. And I think what you're doing is kind of a similar scenario. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, it's also planned out, like mapped out on like a table, like, okay, we'll have these things coming out all at the same time. It was just sort of like making the movie inspired me to I knew what the end wanted to be, so I was like, let me make the song that I feel like I'm hearing, that I want, where the lyrics are. It would be different than just licensing a Ramones song. I mean, not that we have the money to do it, but what I'm saying is, like, if you just license the Ramones, it'd be great because it's them, but it would have no reference point to the movie. It's not like what they did for Pet Sematary, which is what I'm thinking in my head, and I wanted it to be like referential to the movie. So I was like, all right, well, let's just go create that. We have a band, we can do that. And so it's kind of, it's fun in that way. We just, it all kind of came together in some crazy way.
I love it. So that's the way it should happen. That's true art right there. Art isn't planned out, it just happens.
Yeah. Agreed.
So that's cool.
It grabs you when it goes. Yeah. So
tell, tell everybody how they can reach out to you to check out the new album, check out the movie when it comes, the trailer, all the things you got going on.
So the album is out today, and it's on all the streaming platforms of Apple and Spotify and the many others that are out there. And the other one, we have our Instagram and all that. When the music video comes out, it'll also find its way, certainly to the Instagram account for, Das Moose Band. And then the movie's got its own whole life, which is, it's Traction Park Massacre. And it's got all the social media handles that go along with that. The trailer will be out tomorrow night. We do this panel, I mean, we're here. It's Wednesday, October 16th. October 17th is our panel. It is hosted by Fangoria Magazine, and Fangoria is going to have the trailer exclusively for the weekend on their site, and then it'll go wide next week. So if anybody Googles Traction Park Massacre, they'll first find the teaser, which has been out for some months, and then they'll find the movie. And the actual film is going to come out next year, because we still got a bunch of work to do on the special effects and stuff like that. But it's a really fun ride. If I just give a quick little description of it, it's a group of friends, just the way slasher movies go. They kind of go up to the woods, and they're just going to hang out. Along the way, they run afoul of a group of outlaw bikers, and all of them wind up on the grounds of it. It's like an old amusement park that burned down many years ago, and the twin sons of the owners were thought killed, but they weren't. Of course, they're now like 25-year-old, and they're like feral twins, and they like basically hunt anybody who comes onto the land. And so sometimes YouTube people go up there to like make videos and stuff, and that's it for them. And they're sort of it's a lot of fun. So we use like pieces of the park still are in it, and parts of the legend of Action Park is in it. But it's a really fun ride, and it's hard to be sure, but there's a lot of comedy in there. And I think anybody who's a fan of some of the old school slasher films and Evil Dead 2 and Killer Clowns from Outer Space and a lot of fun slasher movies. I think you get a kick out of the movie. So we're working hard to finish it, and it'll be out for next year. So that's the movie.
I love it. Is there any last words you want to leave the listeners with that we haven't covered?
No, I think that's pretty great. It was good talking to you, and I appreciate the time. It was nice to do that. Unless, Doug, you want to say hello for 1 second? So my co-director in all this and my co-writer, when I told you that we were making films for 40 years, that's 40 plus years. This is Douglas DeMonda. He is my best friend, co-director, co-writer, nice. And we basically cooked this up together. We just said, we're getting to be a certain age. Let's do the thing we always wanted to do. So this is kind of about following your dreams a little bit. And we said, what's the most accessible kind of story? And it's basically a horror movie. Everybody loves a good horror movie, and it doesn't need stars. So we were just bodies. Just bodies. Yeah, very well put. And so we have a nice high kill count for anybody who's keeping track of the score of those.
Yes, song.
Yeah,
boy.
So it's actually a lot of fun. So I just think Doug and I went to the movies for so many years, and I think like you, Dean, we like crowd pleaser movies. It's just like kind of music. It's the same thing. I'm sure, and knowing by the bands that you like, I'll bet we like a lot of the same movies in common. And you probably like going to a movie theater where the audience is into the movie and they're cheering for it and they're rooting for it. And that's kind of the idea that we set out for to make a film that the audience is going to want to get with. And
I love it.
Doug and I saw many of these films, in their original screenings, and we just were like, man, let's make a movie that the audience is going to want.
Man.
Yeah, have a good time.
That's
It's a Friday night, man. Have a beer, smoke it up, go to the movie, enjoy.
There you go. That's the way it should be. Music and movies should both be fun, and for everybody. So yes. I love that. And thanks for giving us some great entertainment. I can't wait for the movie, and definitely the album is badass. So everybody's got to check the album out today. And thanks a lot for giving us some great entertainment when we probably need it most. And thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipe Man.
You bet. Thank you, man. You're a great interviewer. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Peace.
Thank you. Appreciate it myself.
You good, brother. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipe Man on W4CY Radio.